those who are against Trump's speech because he's embarrassing, but they're not against his policies. That's what's really hurting people. Emma, Professor, come on. Jonathan. Jeanette, get judge, please. Get judge, please. Emma. Where's Emma? The unfinished business of the Civil War. To remove the statues, the flag, and the agenda of the Civil War. People like Robert E. Lee led a drive to overthrow our government. It was not successful. 750,000 Americans were killed in that war. Most Americans lost in any war. They were guilty of attempting secession and sedition and slavery and segregation. Even Robert E. Lee said himself, "Don't build any statue to me," because he thought building more statues to those who had attempted this act would slow down the healing process. And so long as there's glass in the wound, there cannot be healing. While the focus right now is on the statues coming down and the flag being removed and the Confederate colors being challenged, the mass deportation led by Sessions is hypocritical for them who vote against Trump's tweets because Trump's behavior has embarrassed them, but not against Trump's policies. For example, 25,000 from Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea who came here during the Ebola crisis are being put out of the country. 50,000 Haitians on temporary protected status have been put out of the country. 800,000 children from American children whose parents, one parent is a citizen, one is not, being put out of the country. So that the mass deportation, the mass inhumanity led by Jeff Sessions is the real issue of our time. We feel challenged by what has happened in Virginia. The worst news is Heather Heyer was killed. She is now a martyr in the lineage of Valder Luizzo and Smyrna Goodman Cheney and those who died for the struggle. But the students and people of Virginia now have the right to vote. We didn't have 50 years ago. We can remember in November, there'll be a big election in November in Virginia. This will be the time to express real outrage at the polls in November in Virginia. Well, Balboa, because he was connected with Mussolini, that's valid. One must not equate the role of Washington and the role of Jefferson with that of Robert E. Lee. After 157 years of slavery, Washington headed the movement to start a new country and move toward the Declaration of Independence with we are all people created equal as a very different status. The new country they tried to build, Lee tried to tear up. It's a false equation. What we need to do now is focus on what has happened in reversal of our civil rights struggle under Sessions. Sessions is the real statute that must be removed. He shifted monies designed to pursue the violent race supremacists to anti-affirmative action. He's shifted money from pursuing voter suppression to pursuing voter fraud. He shifted resources from the Department of Justice to pursue a climate change. And so the threat to this administration, while we are being diverted by the tweets, is that the deregulation of justice from climate change to education is really what's hurting us. Well, the Congress needs to speak out in clearer terms. They must block his attempt to roll back the years of progress over the last 50 years. His attempt to deregulate justice, to remove the progress made on climate change, and the right to vote and education must be stopped. His attempt to give kinship, give support for David Duke and white race supremacists and neo-Nazis and the Klan. That is a threat to all of us, an insult to all of us. We must, in fact, go another way. And if the resistance is massive enough, it will happen. Well, it creates a heaviness of heart. On the other hand, we've always had to fight these forces that sought to maintain legal segregation. After all, between 1880 and 1940, 5,000 blacks were lynched without an indictment. That's the Emmett Till season, and that's the Medgar Evers season. But we've never had a president in our lifetime before who gave them a comfort zone. And that comfort zone creates a real danger for blacks and Jews and immigrants and refugees, and isolates us in the world opinion. The whole world is saying something is going around America with the words coming forth from Donald Trump. Well, first of all, don't surrender. In tough times, be tough. It means in Virginia and Maryland, Virginia and New Jersey, they can vote this coming fall. It means that 6 million Americans who have served their time in prison, whose right to vote should be restored. That means in Florida, 1.7 million can be restored. It means stop the water coming through the dike, but also use your vote. Hold on until next year and vote with a passion. In the meantime, massive demonstrations do matter. Well, Heather Heyer as a legitimate martyr. There's power in the blood of martyrs. Unearned suffering is redemptive. And when Emmett Till was killed, I remember asking Mrs. Parks, why didn't you go to the back of the bus? She said, I thought about Emmett Till, I couldn't go back. Power in the blood of the martyrs, or the impact that Medgar Evers had up on the March on Washington in 1963. The impact of Serena Goodman Cheney being killed, 2 Jews and a black in Philadelphia, Mississippi. The impact of the Birmingham bombing. She's in that legacy of sacrificial servants whose suffering has challenged us to be more sacrificial. This side is not just about black and white. It's a struggle between two ideas, the Union or the Confederacy. It's about healing versus tearing apart. After all, in slavery time, blacks could not vote, women could not vote, workers could not organize. This is a struggle between a more perfect union and a secessionist plan to overthrow the American government. And the white race supremacists, on the false premise that make America as it once was. It once was all Native American. That's why Florida, from Seminole to Seattle, is Native American. as it once was 246 years of legal slavery as it once was. We're not going back as a nation. We're going forward. And to see Heather Heyer put her life on the line, those who are injured, is inspiring. I'm going to talk a bit about what's happened to the families of those who are now facing deportation.
First and foremost, we already have 25,000 refugees from Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea who were relocated here because of the Ebola virus. We have, they are asked already to leave the country. And the Haitians, 50,000 Haitians who are here under temporary protective status, TPS, have received notification that on July 15th that they are to leave the country by January. Another 250 Central Americans, Latinos, Caribbeans are asked to leave the country. These are people that were here on temporary legal status, and now they're asking to leave. They passed the background checks. 800,000 dreamers are right now in the balance. 800,000 dreamers that came here underage. Under Obama were able to be here as DACA recipients. They too are in the balance. By September 5th, they also will be eliminated from being able to stay in this country. We're looking at ethnic cleansing here. They're destabilizing our mixed status families. There are 5 million U.S. citizen children in this country that have at least one parent that is a non-citizen and someone who is here undocumented. They're destabilizing our families, and we need to get up and we need to fight back. People need to take a side. People need to understand what's going on in this country. Jeff Sessions has to go, and we need to prepare ourselves in the state to remove this governor who's also Batman and Robin with the President of the United States, holding back education of our children, keeping violence in our streets. How do you make strong families? Strong families is what stops violence in our streets. Educating them. Giving them summer jobs, and all of that's been eliminated here. And also they're going after affirmative action. We have Latino-centered institutions like Northeastern that are under siege. We need to stop all of this, and we need to stand up, and we need to decide what side we are on. And I think that that fight, the Civil War, has been fought. That's why those statues need to come down, and people need to decide what America we're living in today. What encourages me is that 50 aldermen representing all of Chicago unanimously said this is a sanctuary city and we're going to protect the immigrants that have helped build this city and their families. That he is doing, Emmanuel is doing his job, our mayor, and that's good. But we have made a decision, and we give more money as a city to the federal government than we receive. So if they want to cut us off to stop us from protecting the immigrant families and the families that contribute to our economy in the city of Chicago, maybe what Mayor Emanuel should do is not send it in the first place. Because this way we will have enough money to give to our children for education, give them those jobs that they so need, and strengthen our families and our communities. That's what stops the violence. We're looking at a country that has taken these things away after we fought so long for. You know, and every time that Trump cannot pass or eliminate and rescind Obamacare, he comes after the most vulnerable. First, he came after the Liberian and the Guinea and Sierra Leone refugees. Then he came after the Haitians. And now he's coming after the dreamers and those people that have fled their countries because of violence, the refugees. We need to stand up and say what kind of America we want to live in. I want to live in this America. I want to live in the America where there's justice. I want to live in America where we already fought the Civil War, and guess what? Won. I want to live in America, whether you're black, Latino, or gay, that we are able to vote and somebody not blocking that vote. I want to live in America where if you have the majority of the vote in this country, you should be president, and not in America where that is all rigged. You know, so that's the America we want to live in, and people need to stand up for that. We're going to have a march very soon, and those information is to be given out later.
Just 1 second. The other press that came a bit late, we'll start again only because we had a 10:30 press conference, and we shifted it to 11:30 because the governor's having a 10:30 press conference. But I thought it was significant to give you some additional background data on why, how the focus is on the flag and the monuments and electoral college, that in the Department of Justice, the agenda of Trump, there are those who voted against being embarrassed by Heather Heyer being killed, who vote for Trump's policies. You're against Heather Heyer being killed, but vote for shifting resources from a poor and health care bill to the rich and the wealth care bill. They're against being embarrassed by what happened in Charlottesville, but they are for attacking affirmative action. They are for attacking elections, choosing to focus on voter fraud rather than voter suppression. They're against affirmative action. And so it's the agenda that must be addressed now in a meaningful way. And I think what's beneath the radar screen is these thousands of people. We were all upset about the Ebola crisis. People were dying, and 25,000 of them have been put out the country with basically no place to go. 50,000 Haitians. And why are they marching? Because they're afraid. They're somewhere hiding, getting letters with no place to go. Let them get ready for this stuff.
These people passed those background checks. These people already had Social Security numbers, licenses, and they have jobs and careers. They've been here for years. They have families and grandchildren. Why they're asked to leave? They pose no threat to Homeland Security. This shows the racism this country has, the level they have come.
Well, I think a part of it, of course, has to do with green card soldiers. That is maybe the most horrendous. Those who come here under this status, they serve in the military. They serve in the military. They're accepted. They're put on the front line. If they die, they're given an honorable burial. If they not die, they're put out the country. That's horrendous. Who else is here, Don? I can't see who else is here. Okay, what time is it now? 11:25. Let's just wait a few minutes, guys, if you don't mind. Yes. I want to start that meeting. Okay. Well, Jonathan. Jonathan? I do. Please give Jonathan a copy of this.